Hi there, it's Miss Eliza, Children's Librarian at the Waukee Public Library. And for this month's Elementary Maker project, we're going to be creating our own colorful soap bubbles and using those to make some textured art prints. So we're going to transfer those bubbles onto paper and it creates this really cool texture, and we're going to use that to make some flowers that you can use on a card or make some 3D flowers. For this project, the things that you're going to need are a bowl. I'm using a little pie tin, but you're just gonna want like a medium-sized bowl, some regular water, some dish soap, just any kind of dishwashing liquid, and some acrylic paint. You don't want to use washable paint for this because it will dissolve in the water, so some kind of liquid acrylic paint would be best. You're also going to need a straw, anything that you have on hand. We have these biodegradable ones here. And then you're going to need to use some thick paper like a cardstock. And if you got a pack from the library, you've got this already, but this could also be maybe construction paper might work, but cardstock is probably the best for this project. You might also want some extra construction paper to make the backing of your card or to add some little leaves or anything else you want to decorate your finished project. All right, so we're going to get started by creating our bubble mixture, and that's gonna be really simple. All you're gonna do is add in a little bit of water. I'm just gonna pour some in, just enough to cover the bottom and be able to cover the end of a straw, so you don't need a ton. And then I'm going to add a little bit of dish soap. You don't really need to measure this. You're gonna wanna add a little bit at a time because you can always add in some more, but you can't take any out. So you're gonna wanna add in a little bit of dish soap, and I just added a little bit to the middle there. And then you're also just gonna add a squirt of paint. And again, you can add some more as you go on. So you wanna start with just a little bit, and then you can add more if you want to, but you can see they're all kind of in there. And then I'm just gonna use the tip of the straw, you could also use a spoon, to swirl them together. And what you're gonna end up with is some colorful looking water. Now, once you get this nice and mixed, it's gonna start creating a few bubbles just from the action of mixing together, but we're gonna use our breath to create some, hopefully, some big, impressive bubbles that are a little bit bigger. So all that a bubble is the physical matter that's the soap forms kind of a film and it surrounds a pocket of air. So when you're stirring, that's helping that film go around some of the air as it's moving quickly. And the same thing happens with your breath. When you blow into the straw, it's going to create a pocket of air that's surrounded by a film, kind of like a balloon. So it's the same idea, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to blow gently. I'm gonna put the straw, the same end I was using, kind of down in so that it's fully under the liquid, and then you're gonna blow into the other end of the straw, nice and gently. You don't wanna go too crazy, you don't want it to be flying off, but you just wanna be able to create some bubbles, and what we're looking for is bubbles that are tall enough to go over the top of your bowl. Let's see. And as you can see, as it grows, I've got a really big one here. There's all different shapes and sizes, and they're merging together because bubbles have a tendency to want to take up as much space as possible. So if they can share an edge, share a wall, they will. Oh, we popped the big one. So you can see they're kind of joining onto each other and creating this big mound. So that's kind of what we want. We want a big mound. I'm glad that big one popped because the more small bubbles we have going on, the better the texture is gonna look when we do the print. So I'm actually gonna add a little bit more soap to get a little bit more bubble action going, and then a tiny bit more paint just to balance off with the soap. Stir it up and we'll give it another go. All right, gently take your straw out. Now we've got this big dome of paint bubbles here, and we're going to go ahead and take our paper and lay it right on top, flat. And that's gonna pop the bubbles, and as it pops, you can see you get a little bit of texture on the paper. Now you have to work kind of quick. You can see as I'm talking, the bubbles are going and popping on their own. So I'm gonna do it one more time without pausing to talk to you, and you'll be able to see it transfer onto the paper. Here we go. All right, so you can see I went ahead and got some of the bubbles and the texture on here. And as these bubbles dry, you're gonna be able to see the little circles and paint that it leaves. You can also go ahead and brush these off, maybe with the side of a fork or a spoon. You can just brush these bubbles back down in, and then you can kind of speed up that drying process a little bit, because we wanna go over this a couple different times so that we get a lot of textured paint on this paper. I'm gonna do a little bit more of that off screen, and then I'll come back and show you the result. All right, so I've got the bubbles all on here. I went over it a couple times on the same piece of paper, and I was able to get it spread out pretty well. And again, once this paper dries, it's gonna leave behind all these little tiny circles are gonna show up as texture on our paint. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool technique. It is getting a little bit messy, so you can see I've got a tray down, because as you keep blowing and popping the bubbles, it's gonna splash a little bit. So you wanna make sure that you do this on a table that you can clean and wipe down when you're done. You can also do this with a couple different colors. So you could get a bowl that has blue or red, any colors that you like, and then have different layers of color going on. You can see on this one, I've got some blue and some purple that I did to create this particular print. So you can kind of experiment. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just layering these different bubble stamps that we're making to get a print that you like. So we'll try one more time. And you wanna smash it on your bubbles as quick as you can before they pop on their own. Bring it up, and then you've got a whole bunch of different layers of these bubble paint on your print. So you're gonna go ahead and let those dry, and then come back maybe the next day or maybe just in a couple hours. And then to create these flowers, all we did was take different parts of that print that we liked that had really good bubble texture. You can see all the little circles in there and the different layers of color. And then we just cut these big circly, kind of wavy circle shapes. They kind of look like hydrangeas, a really great May flower, so it's perfect for this month. So we just kind of cut around. You could of course do whatever you want with these. They'd make really pretty cards. You could add a bunch more colors. You could write a message on top, but we just cut some kind of wavy circle shapes and even layered a couple. We kind of taped them on straws and added some leaves here to make this type of flower. Or you could also just fold up a piece of construction paper and make a really cute card out of it. It's a little hard to see the detail on camera, but in real life, it's very cool. We've got all these little marks from the bubbles. It almost looks like there's still bubbles on there in different colors, because we did a couple different layers. So we've got some beautiful stem art flowers that you can give to somebody or enjoy on your own. Thanks for joining us for this month's Maker Pack. We will see you next time.